Actually a picture of me back when I first started. Yeah, I look at least 5 years younger there. You know what they always say.
41 years, right? That's
Delirious?
1983.
Yeah.
So this, I had always assumed that you'd put a ton of...
Mom, I'm going to be famous. Very famous. More famous than anyone you know. The voice belongs to a child, but the conviction cuts through the air like a blade. Lillian Murphy looks at her 10-year-old son standing in the cramped living room of their Bushwick, Brooklyn apartment and feels something break inside her. If this story about Eddie Murphy moved you, inspired you, or even made you remember a moment in your life, subscribe to the channel now. Believe it or not, 94.8% of the people who watch these videos are not subscribed yet. If you're one of them, don't miss the next legends that shaped comedy, culture, and history. Support the channel with your free subscription, and let's keep these stories alive together. What she feels isn't pride, it's terror. A deep maternal terror because she knows what this country does to black boys who dream too big, who want to shine too bright, who refuse to accept the place that was designated for them. "Eddie, stop it," she whispers, exhausted after another triple shift cleaning the homes of white people who would never look her in the eyes. "You need to be realistic. Men like Richard Pryor, like Red Fox, they suffer. They're never truly respected. This industry will chew you up and spit you out. Please, baby, choose something else." But Eddie doesn't listen. He just repeats, as if sealing a pact with destiny itself. "I'm going to be famous, Mom, and I'm going to do it my way." And Lillian closes her eyes because she knows her son doesn't understand yet. He doesn't understand that being black and brilliant in this country isn't a blessing, it's a target on your back. But what she didn't know that night in 1971 was that her son wasn't just dreaming, he was declaring war. Eddie Murphy was born in 1961 in a Brooklyn that had no space for black dreamers. Bushwick was a graveyard of broken promises, where heroin killed faster than bullets, and where boys like Eddie were statistics before they were people. Eddie's father, Charles Murphy, was a police officer, one of the few black men who could wear the badge in a force that hated them as much as the criminals they arrested. But Charles had a secret. On weekends, he was a comedian. He'd get on stages in bars and basements, making men laugh who carried the weight of being invisible in a country that saw them only as threat or as joke. Eddie loved watching his father work. He saw how laughter was the only weapon a black man could carry without being killed for it. And then, in 1969, Charles Murphy was stabbed to death. Eddie was 8 years old. The police said it was robbery, but everyone knew the truth. Black men, even those who wore badges, weren't safe anywhere. Violence always found them. Lillian was left alone with 3 children and no safety net in a country that wasn't built to protect black women. She worked 3, 4 jobs simultaneously: telephone operator, housekeeper, anything that kept the roof over their heads. Eddie and his brother Charlie were sent to their grandmother's house, a bitter woman who made it clear they were a burden. Eddie began to disappear inside characters. He imitated everyone: Al Green, Elvis, drunk uncles, neighbors. When he made people laugh, for a few minutes he was no longer the poor black boy without a father. He was Eddie Murphy. He mattered. And this became his drug, his religion, his only way to breathe. At 15, Eddie was doing stand-up at Long Island clubs, lying about his age to get on stages that weren't made for him. And every night he destroyed. But there was always a weight in the air, the feeling that he needed to be 10 times better than any white comedian to receive half the respect. He saw it in the eyes of club owners, of other comedians. "You're funny for a black kid." As if being funny and being black were mutually exclusive things. Eddie swallowed the anger and worked harder. Because he had learned early that for a black boy to survive, he couldn't just be good. He had to be undeniable. In 1980, at 19 years old, Eddie Murphy was hired for Saturday Night Live. But let's be clear about what really happened. SNL was dying after the departure of the original cast, and they desperately needed something, anything, to save the show. Eddie wasn't chosen because they respected him. He was chosen because they were desperate. And even then, he was the only black member of a cast that didn't know what to do with him. The writers didn't write material for him.
The producers didn't take him seriously. Eddie had to create his own characters, Gumby, Buckwheat, Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood, Velvet Jones, because nobody else was going to do it for him. And when those characters exploded, when Eddie literally by himself saved Saturday Night Live from death, the media narrative wasn't, "Look at this genius." It was, "Look at this lucky kid." As if talent had nothing to do with it. As if he hadn't carried an entire show on his back at 19 while older white men received the credit. Hollywood noticed, but Hollywood never knows what to do with black men who are too big for the roles they want to give us. When 48 Hours was released in 1982, with Eddie at 21 stealing the film from Nick Nolte, the industry panicked. A young black actor, handsome, charismatic, and more talented than the whites around him? This broke the rules. And the rules said that black men could be funny sidekicks, could be threats, could be comic relief. But stars? Leaders? That was dangerous. Eddie didn't care. Trading Places came in 1983, and then Beverly Hills Cop in 1984, a film originally written for Sylvester Stallone, a dramatic action role. Eddie turned it into comedy and made $234 million, becoming Hollywood's most bankable actor. He was 23 and unstoppable. But Hollywood's revenge was silent and cruel. While Eddie broke box office records, white critics despised him. They called his films commercial trash, vulgar, without artistic value. They never explicitly said, "We hate that a black man is dominating our industry," but it was there, in every review, in every article. And the Academy? Not one Oscar nomination during his entire 80s peak, not one. Eddie made films that defined culture, Coming to America, The Golden Child, Harlem Nights, but the message was clear. You can make us rich, Negro, but you'll never be one of us. Never be art, never be respected. Richard Pryor, Eddie's hero, never won a competitive Oscar in his life. The lesson was obvious. This country lets black men make them laugh, but never lets them sit at the master's table. And then came the comments, the jokes from white colleagues. "Eddie, you only do black comedy, right? When are you going to do something universal?" As if the black experience wasn't universal. As if billions of dollars in box office didn't prove that the entire world connected with him. Eddie began to feel the weight. The anger he swallowed every day began to leak into his stand-up. Delirious and Raw were cultural phenomena, but they were also filled with rage, homophobia, misogyny, a toxic masculinity he used as armor against a world that constantly tried to emasculate him, infantilize him, control him. He attacked women, attacked homosexuals, because he himself was being attacked every day and didn't have the language to process it. The world laughed and applauded, but Eddie was bleeding inside. And then came 1997, the night that changed everything. Eddie Murphy, 4:45 in the morning, West Hollywood, pulled over by police with Atisan Siuli, a transgender prostitute, in the passenger seat. The media explosion was nuclear. But let's talk about what really happened here. Eddie Murphy, one of the most famous men on the planet, was publicly humiliated in a way no white actor ever would be. When Hugh Grant was caught with a prostitute in 1995, it was treated as a mishap. When Eddie was caught, it was treated as confirmation of all the dirty suspicions white America always had about black men, that they're sexually deviant, that they're predators, that they're liars. The press destroyed him. Comedians made jokes for years. And Eddie, who had spent his entire life building an image of hypermasculinity as protection, watched that image incinerate in one night. Hollywood, which was already looking for an excuse to discard him, now had permission. And the films after, Hollyman, I Spy, Pluto Nash, were humiliating failures that the industry celebrated as justice. Eddie then made a choice many considered surrender. He embraced family films. Dr. Doodle, The Nutty Professor, Shrek. Critics said he sold his soul, that he abandoned his essence. But maybe Eddie was doing something deeper, refusing to be the stereotype they wanted him to be, refusing to be the hypersexualized, violent, dangerous black man. He chose to be a father, to be gentle, to be vulnerable. And for that, he was punished again.
Because for America, a black man who doesn't perform anger and threat is confusing, is betrayal, is weakness. 2007 was the year that almost broke Eddie for good. Dreamgirls. He gave a performance that was pure soul, vulnerable, tragic, brilliant. He was nominated for an Oscar. He was the favorite. And everyone in the industry knew he deserved it. But then, Norbit was released during awards season, and the Academy used that as an excuse. Eddie lost to Alan Arkin. He left the ceremony before the end, his face a mask of pain he could no longer hide. Because he finally understood. It didn't matter how talented he was. It didn't matter how much money he made for them. It didn't matter how many times he proved his worth. To the Academy, to Hollywood, to America, he would always be just a black comedian. And black comedians don't win Oscars. They make you laugh, fill your pockets, and then you discard them when you're done with them. So Eddie Murphy did something radical. He stopped. From 2008 to 2019, he practically disappeared. While others fought to stay relevant, Eddie chose his sanity, his family, his peace. He had 10 children from 5 relationships. His personal life was complex, but he was present, trying to be the father he didn't have, breaking cycles. And the world forgot him. New black comedians emerged, Kevin Hart, Tiffany Haddish, and the narrative was always the same. Finally, a black comedian who's universal, who isn't divisive like the old ones. As if Eddie had been the problem, and not the country that never knew how to deal with a black man who refused to diminish himself. But in 2019, something impossible happened. Eddie returned to Saturday Night Live after 35 years. And it wasn't nostalgia, it was resurrection. He proved he had never lost anything. And when Dolomite Is My Name was released, with Eddie playing Rudy Ray Moore, a black man who created his own empire when Hollywood didn't want to give him space, everyone saw. Eddie was telling his own story. A man who refused to die when everyone said he should. Lillian Murphy died in 2000, before seeing her son's return. But before she died, she said something Eddie carries as both scar and blessing. "You proved me wrong, baby, but the price was too high." And she was right. The price was brutal. The price was loneliness, public humiliation, decades of disrespect, an entire career fighting to breathe in an industry built to suffocate him. Eddie Murphy isn't just a comedian. He's a survivor of a war he should never have had to fight. The war of existing, shining, and refusing to disappear in a country that always wanted him to be smaller, safer, less threatening. If this story about Eddie Murphy moved you, inspired you, or even made you remember a moment in your life, subscribe to the channel now. Believe it or not, 94.8% of the people who watch these videos are not subscribed yet. If you're one of them, don't miss the next legends that shaped comedy, culture, and history. Support the channel with your free subscription, and let's keep these stories alive together. The spotlight is on again. Eddie Murphy stands in the center of it, 63 years old, still standing. That 10-year-old boy who said, "I'm going to be famous," didn't know yet that being famous and being black meant carrying the weight of an entire race, meant being a symbol before being human, meant never being able to fail, because each failure would be used as proof that they don't deserve to be here. Eddie Murphy opened doors that were locked with chains. He kicked them, exploded them, bleeding the entire way. And generations of black comedians, Kevin Hart, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, walk through the doors Eddie destroyed. He paid the price, with his sanity, with his image, with years of his life. But he proved that a black boy from Bushwick can conquer the world, even when the world never wanted to be conquered by him. Eddie Murphy isn't perfect, but he's immortal. And sometimes immortality costs everything. And Eddie paid. God knows he paid.